Join us at Queens Public Library as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We'll be offering programs for all ages in tribute to Dr. King and recommendations for books and films that celebrate his extraordinary life and legacy. Learn more on our website at queenslibrary.org. Lunar New Year is an East Asian tradition for welcoming a fresh start to the new year, as well as for honoring ancestors. We invite everyone to enjoy our book recommendations and join us for special programs, including traditional music, crafts, story times, and more, celebrating the Year of the Snake. Learn more at queenslib.org/Lunar New Year 25. Visit QPL for a healthy start to your new year. Regardless of your age or fitness level, developing and maintaining healthy habits begins with mind, body, and community. Join us for a great variety of health and wellness classes for kids, teens, adults, and older adults at our locations across Queens. For more information, visit queenslibrary.org.
I am just overwhelmed with the number of people that are out here. It just know that we know that the founders of the library are smiling as our ancestors.
War, civil rights, poverty-fueled crime and community unrest had put our country in an upheaval. The assassinations of Malcolm X and Dr. King had cast a dark cloud over many communities of color. But a rose grew from the concrete as a collective effort to reclaim our humanity and celebrate our heritage was birthed. Black Power and the Black Arts Movement galvanized our people in a focus to find ways to ensure that our people knew their history and culture. Concerned neighbors of Corona East Elmhurst, along with the Black Panther Party, worked together to create an oasis where minds can grow in both world knowledge, but also the knowledge of self.
Langston Hughes was definitely a new outbreak and experiment for the entire library, the whole field of library science, and it must be given its proper due place in history. This was a library that was created under the anti-poverty program. During the anti-poverty program, every single federal agency got a grant to work on issues that helped the poor. For the libraries, it was the Library Services and Construction Act money. And in his wisdom, Mr. Tucker, who was at the time the director of the Queensborough Public Library System, saw it was a great time to try to find some way of spending that money in our system in Queens. He's lucky. He had a great lady in his employ named Elizabeth Merkelson, who worked, and she was from our community, worked in the community, got excited about library science, and went on to get her degree, and then she went to work for them. And she was in charge of all of those kinds of programs. A library go-round, etc. But the crowning jewel was when she put together a proposal for Langston. It was for a library program in our community.
April 1969, this is when the doors opened, when it officially became a library.
Politics was controlled by the white people.
And we knew that our children would not get into education. And I think it was Reverend Glamonson, the one that said that If we want our children to become educated, we don't have to close down the school.
We were following the leadership of the NAACP, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Right. And this was their goal. Sure. We found that when our schools were segregated, some of us got a better education in the segregated situation, better than our youngsters are getting now. Why we say that? Because in the segregated side, our youngsters were taught that history. Okay. And our youngsters were taught by African American male and female.
I got to work at Langston Hughes, and that was my first introduction, shall we say, into the realm of Black history. The Library Action Committee raised funds for different programs that we were doing.
Tyrone Bryant, the first director of the Langston Hughes Community Library and Cultural Center, was a dynamic, visionary individual who shook the world when he was at the library. Tyrone Bryant was also a director of the planning committee for the Corona East Elmhurst Community Corporation. When asked what he hoped for the future of Langston Hughes Library, he stated, "My dream is for more established library systems to open and build similar branches as Langston Hughes. I would like for our city fathers to fund Langston Hughes yearly. Our purpose and objectives to library non-users are constantly being achieved." Tyrone Bryant hosted visitors from other libraries seeking information and ideas on how to model their library on Langston Hughes. The library was once a dream, and Tyrone Bryant has helped maintain it as a reality. 1970s were an uncertain time for the organizations and programs funded by the War on Poverty legislation passed in the 1960s, part of President Lyndon Johnson's Great Society.
Langston Hughes was like a magnet. And young people came into the library because they didn't have to come in and they didn't have to do that. They could talk and they had fun. And we had so many programs. This is something, as far as I know, no other library was doing at the time. We had programs upstairs. And kids and the families would come. And then when we had the festival on the side of the library, it was filled with the neighborhood kids.
Soon after the Langston Hughes Library opened its doors, budget cuts to services were immediately on the horizon. Tyrone Bryant sent out letters and flyers to the community, including setting up an open house with government and community officials present. The Transition Press, a local journalism workshop implemented by Tyrone Bryant and in partnership with the New York Times, published from 1969 to 1973, raised awareness and alarm over looming budget cuts each year. If funding were not restored, the library would shut down completely or remain in operation with limited staff. Programs such as homework assistance, special events, exhibits, art and chess programs, as well as the Transition Press, can all be terminated. The editor of the Transition Press asks, "Can we afford to lose this vital community organ?" Help Save the Library columns were published in the Transition Press, and petitions were sent to local officials, all the way up to President Nixon's office. This continued throughout the early 1970s. It is a testament to the Corona East Elmhurst community activism that Langston Hughes Library remained open and funded to this day.
I began my tenure at Langston Hughes Library in August of 1980. But the 80s started to become a very choppy period. Federal budgets were being estranged under Reagan administration.
By the end of 1982, we're going to be looking at an indefinite type of budget cut.
In other words, the center could die, the facility
could easily die by the end of 82.
Around 1985, I got a call from the New York State Education Department informing us that the LSCA funding was shifting. That shift, Langston Hughes would no longer be eligible for LSCA funding in the next fiscal year. The next call I got was from the New York State Department of Education and the Board of Regents, calling a meeting at Langston Hughes with the Queens Library Board of Trustees, Connie Cook, who was the director of Queens Library at that time, the Board of Directors for the Library Action Committee, and myself to discuss the future of Langston Hughes Library. Queens Library definitely agreed that they did not want to lose Langston Hughes Library because the Langston Hughes Community Library and Culture Center's role was completely different than all the other branch locations. We were the home of the Black Heritage Reference Center of Queens County. Negotiations over a 2-year period established the fact that we were going to be shifting our funding. We were no longer going to be receiving federal funding. We were going to be funded through Queens Public Library. And based on the successes that we had over an 18-year period under the guidance of Library Action Committee's Board of Directors, we had earned the right to gain branch status, and that would change the relationship between Queens Library and the Library Action Committee and Langston Hughes Library. Queens Library has now the full responsibility for the library as a branch, and the Library Action Committee assumes responsibility as an advisory body to Queens Library and to Langston Hughes Community Library Culture Center. All of the staff positions, everybody would be paid through Queens Public Library, and all of the grants, all of that funding would be supplemental funding for program. And with that, it was formalized with a letter of agreement between the Queens Public Library Board of Trustees, the Executive Director of Queens Library, the Board of Directors for the Library Action Committee, that establishes that relationship between the two institutions now. The negotiations was trying to establish exactly what the new role of Queens Library would be and the new role of what the Library Action Committee would be. It was never confrontational. It was always a very warm, comfortable discussion. Responsibilities needed to be clarified so that it was clear. If Queens Public Library had not agreed back in the 1960s to support the proposal for Langston Hughes to be created and go to the State Education Department for approval, there's no telling what would have happened with the idea of Langston Hughes Community Library Culture Center.
Sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now. For I still going, honey. I still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
The rich history of the Langston Hughes Community Library and Culture Center was a major factor that drew me to this position. I remember first seeing a job description come across my computer screen, and I felt an unexpected surge of excitement. I was immediately reminded of all the inspiring stories that Andrew, who was my college professor, had shared with his students. His enthusiasm in recounting these tales was infectious. I recall trying to understand what they were looking for in their next leader and diving deeper into the library's origin and its founding body. And I was so struck by how it truly embodied community activism, a cause I've always identified with strongly. And the combination of this powerful legacy and the palpable passion of those involved, like my predecessor, Sekou, made the opportunity absolutely irresistible to me. Over the past few decades, we've witnessed remarkable changes in our library and within our community. One of the most significant developments has been the evolvement and emergence of the Hispanic population. Throughout these changes, I've always stood firm on the importance of preserving our legacy of Langston Hughes Community Library and Culture Center while adapting to our evolving community. The balance is perhaps what I identify as our most significant accomplishment, what truly sets us apart. We continue to celebrate traditional events such as Kwanzaa and Black August, and we're still celebrating now and embracing Hispanic Heritage Celebration and or Three Kings. This inclusive approach reflects our unique role in the community.
One of the main elements of success for this library has always been, since the 1960s when it was founded, was that it was a homogeneous relationship between the staff and the board and the community, the board, community, and Queens Library. If this new element of leadership and the board can come together as a mighty fist, as a partnership with Queens Library, working in the same direction and working on the same goals, then this library will be just as successful in 75 years as it is in 50 years.
My vision for Langston Hughes Community Library and Culture Centers over the next decade is to continue strengthening its core. This means reinforcing our advisory board, engaging our members, and deepening our commitment to the community we serve. I'm particularly excited about our upcoming 40th Kwanzaa celebration, which exemplifies our ongoing dedication to preserving and promoting African American literature and culture. This event, along with our other accomplishments this year, fills me with enthusiasm for our future. As we look ahead, I envision the library remaining a beacon of change and adaptability. We aim to be the center of voice, celebration, and cultural awareness in our community. My team and I work diligently to identify what now means for Langston Hughes Library, and it seems to evolve each year. It's crucial to remember that when this library was created, it was a catalyst for change, providing accessibility and a safe space of celebration for the African American community.
It's one thing to grow up knowing that you're Black, but if you don't understand the history of being Black, the struggles of being Black, the challenges of being Black in America, then you're lost. And you're also at the mercy of somebody else telling you who you are.
I think there was always, beneath the surface of the community, the collective community mind, there was always this thirst for knowledge of who we were and who we are. And here was this citadel of knowledge sitting in Corona, East Elmhurst.